Rainbow Table. My name is Deb Pierce. Oh, I just want to fly this flag every day. I'm going to be your host for today's show. Let's just go right back to it. Born in London, raised in Peterborough, moved to Toronto, and now I live outside of Toronto. I am so elated to be here. When a gal reached out to me to see if I might be interested in this project, I instantly jumped at it because it's really important to talk about things in our queer community that affect our seniors. And today we're talking about community networks and initiatives specifically for that demographic. And we are joined by a very special guest at the end, Miss Conception. Where in the world is Miss Conception? We're going to find out. If you don't know who that is, she's a Toronto drag queen, but she's an international treasure, actually. So my name is Deb Pierce. Again, I radio, television, comedy, drag kinging, celebrity impersonation, most specifically Anne Murray. I kind of fancy myself a singer and also a mom of an 8.5-year-old who's not here right now because I can't do this when he's around. So thanks for joining us. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. You've missed a few episodes, but you can certainly catch them online on the EGAL website, the EGAL Facebook page, the Rainbow Table Facebook page. They're going to be up in the ether forever and ever. But today's show is live, so I thank you for joining us. I know there's a lot of options for people to tune into, and you've chosen us, and we're grateful. So thanks for joining. Larry, hi Larry in Halifax. Dennis says that I'm looking dapper. Thank you. I got my hair cut yesterday for the first time since the middle of March, and I'm feeling pretty darn dapper today. So thanks for noticing. Spread the word. Okay, so we've got a number of wonderful guests today. We are in Edmonton, we're in Ottawa, we're in Moose Jaw, we're in Montreal, and we're going to be somewhere in, I think, Northern Ontario joining Miss Conception. So thank you again for joining. Please keep in touch throughout. You can start messaging if there's questions, if there's comments, if there's kudos. Feel free to reach out. Thanks for joining. Okay, so our first guest is so highly accomplished. I would have to say there's not many things he hasn't done. His name is Michael Fair, and he has done so much advocacy, so much work, and I want to talk to him. He's coming to us today from Edmonton. Let's let him talk a little bit about himself. Michael Fair, everybody. Round of applause, round of applause, round of applause.
Thank you, Deb. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm glad that you're here, and I'm sensing, I don't want to say godliness, but there's a halo.
Of course, I'm early to get the halo. I'm not waiting for the end.
Okay, I think you've earned it. I've read your CV. You are highly accomplished. So what are some of the things that you've done, Michael, before we start talking about the Pride Network there, the Senior Pride Network? What's something that you've done that you are so super proud of?
I'm going to quickly do two. One, I was...
Take your time.
One was that I was a founder with 5 other people with AIDS Network of Edmonton, which is today HIV Edmonton, back in 1984, and was the first board chair, et cetera. And that was a horrible time to live through, but very important to be working and doing things in that. So that would be the first. The second is I was also an elected member of City Council. I was elected to City Council in 1992 and spent 5 terms, 15 years on City Council, and did some things that certainly were beneficial to the queer community in Edmonton.
Were you the first out and openly queer person on council?
Yes, and probably in Alberta in terms of open. And and I was joined shortly after by Sherry McKibben, who was an open lesbian. We had more queer people on our city council than any council in the country.
Taking over the world.
Very quickly.
That's amazing. Well, I thank you for joining us today. I have to say, I have done a lot of interviews in my time, and I suspect that I've never interviewed anybody that had a school named after them. How did that go down?
Yes, a bit of a shock. The Edmonton Public School Board, who names the schools when new schools are built, the board looked at names they wanted. I had no idea that any of this was happening. And I got a call from the school board saying they wanted to name a junior high school after me. And so I was smart enough to say yes. And that's about all they got out of me. I couldn't quite believe it. And so it exists. It has first group of grade 8 students graduating this year that left, kind of thing. It's a wonderful honor. And I'm very committed to education. I've been involved in education myself. So it's really a very special place.
Internationally, you've been an educator. You've taught just not just in Canada. Where else have you taught?
I've taught in the U.S., in Baltimore and Chicago, primarily, and then in Calgary and here in Edmonton.
And fantastic.
Yeah, a bit in the Yukon as well. I taught a couple classes up there as well.
That's amazing. So, are you staying put in Edmonton right now, or you don't?
Oh yeah. I've lived here now. This is home. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
There aren't many other choices but to stay right in.
You make a good point. We're all kind of staying put, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the hard work that you're doing with the Edmonton Pride Senior Network. What a great initiative. And, I was thinking earlier when we had a team meeting, because these shows don't just happen, they come together with a team. I'm saying hi to you, Wes and Jonathan specifically. And we were sort of talking about how, of course, there's a certain age where you've always had to fight for something. You've always had to forward and progress the rights of LGBTQI2S people. So, of course, you're starting the initiatives for senior equivalent or senior Pride network. So let's talk about the hard work happening in Edmonton.
Yes, so we actually call ourselves the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group. It was my friend Sherry McGibbon and myself, after both of us were out of city council, crossed paths. We were friends before and ran into each other, and we both said, we need to do something about what's happening in Edmonton for older folks, kind of thing in that. And so that was in 2013. And so we both called some people and we started to meet. At that time, I was on the board of the Seniors Association of Greater Edmonton, SAGE. And so it's operated as a group under SAGE, which takes care of all of our funds and all that kind of stuff. And so we've never been a society as such. We're a non-entity group that meets under their auspices. And that's when it took off in 2013, 2014. We applied for some money from the city. City's been great. City of Edmonton has been great. And we did we said what we needed to do first is find out what is happening in terms of older queer seniors in Canada, Edmonton, whatever, what is going on. And we found very little. We found some stuff from the States. We found some stuff in Ottawa. And after that, it was pretty thin. And so we applied for some funding and got a grant to do a survey. This is the survey from 2014. It's also online, and you'll see our web. We interviewed, or we had the survey filled out by almost 150 people. And in those days, I mean, there was no registry that said, here's all the queer people in town, just call them, kind of thing. We had to dig up these people and drag them in.
Calling all gays.
Yeah. You're exactly right. At the Folk Fest here in Edmonton, I swear I found 20 women that filled it in.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
Until they were done filling it in.
That's amazing. So
yes.
What were the results of this survey that you took?
Well, the survey led us then, we had a symposium after with the numbers, and we decided that we needed to do some work on some kind of training module for people who work with seniors already in centers, whatever. It was one of the remarks we heard from a number of older gays and lesbians is, go to that senior center, those same people who bullied and hated me all my life, you got to be kidding.
Right.
And so our first thing was, and we developed a module. We've done some sessions in senior places here in Edmonton. Also, the advocacy, getting changes in provincial regulations, particularly about training for staff. We've been quite successful with a lot of that, and a lot of hard work. We saw that. The other was looking at housing specifically.
Right, big. For seniors.
Yeah. And that really is something we're more engaged in currently, because after we finished that survey and that money, we got some more money from the city again to do a feasibility study around housing. And we've just finished a second project that also was another kind of survey, which is also available online on our website. And this time we had about 200 people. We had people.
You're recruiting. It's true. We do recruit. You're recruiting more gays.
I have to admit, we really were out recruiting and got a lot of folks.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. And it was much more, the survey was much more about, all right, we're talking only about housing. This is what we want you to concentrate on. So what would be important to you? Just an apartment building like any other senior apartment building?
Right.
Is it not something that we want to be community minded and where we build community? And many people fall back into, some kind of place where we get to know each other, we do some things together. Should be open to allies as well. But where we can live in a place that respects us and where we have the opportunity to make it kind of what we want, so we can celebrate different events, so we can be part of pride parades and have, movies about them, et cetera, et cetera. And so we now are doing some additional work, looking much more at what kind of building, the size, the number of people that we'd have in it, what it would cost. We've looked at a couple sketches as possibilities where it would be located, and money, lots of money, which we don't have, but we've never had any money. We've managed to find. The city has been helpful with this part of the process, and hopefully with them and maybe some money from some federal sources. The province is not very, the province, we've only had 4 years, and all the time I've lived here that the province has been any good to work with in this area at all. And we don't, again, that we won't get anything from the provincial government at this time. I mean, we'll keep fighting with them, but so.
I don't doubt that for a second.
Yeah, we do a lot of advocacy, and including myself, I'm involved with that as well. So that's where we're at these days. Some of that information is also online. We do work with other organizations in the city, and
right.
About network. We also did a program looking at isolated seniors, which is underway, not quite finished, but we've done that with the Pride Center of Edmonton, always with the intention that they would eventually take it over, which is almost complete. We worked then with prime timers as bringing them in with ideas and thoughts. And then we've worked with some other ally organizations as well. We have an Affirming Seniors program in the city that was part of it. We've got another senior group that have a fair number of people who are part of the queer community that we've also brought in. And to do our next piece, which is finding a management company that will run a place. We're just starting that, figuring out how, because we aren't going to do it. I mean, we aren't even a registered society. So
what do you mean run a place? What do you mean? So actually get a physical structure and get somebody to manage that stem to stern. Is that what you mean? Right.
Yeah, yes, we don't see ourselves doing that. And in my own personal experience, it goes back to the beginning of AIDS here in Edmonton. The small group of us, 6 of us, a couple of the people on the group insisted that we call ourselves a network and said, we need others to be part of this. We aren't medical people, but they need to be here. We don't do housing. They need to be here. And we've got to make this something that is a network and pull in resources that are available for everyone in this country that we should be getting as well. And so that's part of the notion of this as well. We've got to get others into it now, take on some of those responsibilities. They need to do it ways we want. We need to be able to give key directions and help them be queer friendly, and more than queer friendly, queer accepting, all that kind of stuff in that too.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
amazing where people are saying amazing energy and passion from Michael. Cheers from Winnipeg, from Roberta. And Gal is taking a moment to thank you specifically for your amazing work. I have to say that there's a few different ways that you can get things that aren't given to you, right? So I have to say that your demeanor is so palatable that, of course, you're able to reach people with, there's nothing sort of aggressive about your energy. It's just advocacy work. It's stuff that should be happening. And if it isn't, you understand that it should be that way. And what a wonderful advocate for the queer community out in Edmonton and everywhere you've lived.
it's been I've always been able to work with other people and make that happen, and not just me, of course, kind of do that. But we have had a fair bit of success over the years, and we've had to push, we've had to advocate, and we've had to, scream and yell a few times, maybe.
Yep.
Yep.
And I can hear that. I know you're based out of Canada. It's your home now, but I suspect that I think I read in your bio that, and I can hear your American accent still a little bit.
Still there, yes. It's the
Is
Midwest.
it Missouri? Midwest, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I can hear it. Well, what a wonderful addition to Canada. So would there be any money that could make you go south of the border right now, just out of curiosity?
No, boy, I'll say
No.
that. No.
No, you stay right here with us. Michael Fair, I am grateful. What do you have planned? What's happening with the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group for this summer? Anything in particular?
Well, there's a particular program that will be shown online here in a minute or two, or maybe they have that's going on. The pandemic has meant that we've had to go to virtual, as everyone else, and we've had to change quite a bit. And this is a piece of part of the program, and it is actually the Edmonton Pride Center that is doing this now, because they're moving in and taking this over. We've provided a fair bit of funding for them to do this, and they will permanently take it over and run it. And so that is one of the areas that we are there. We just put out a summary of our recent survey that we sent to everyone that put in about it, and we're now calling some individuals to get a more complete kind of their story. How do they? It is not how many of you want this and what numbers. It's like, so what do you see this as, and how will it be a place you want to move to? So we get that with probably 8-10 people to fill in some of that a bit. We're starting to deal with then some other kinds of agencies and organizations that provide senior services. That's part of what we're also working there along that way. We had hoped to have kind of a citywide queer meeting about the results of our survey and what we're doing as a public thing. And obviously we can't. We hope that maybe by Christmas or after we'll be able to do that. We really need to engage the broader community as much as we can again. But we'll have to see what can be done. So I think this gives some of it. Our website gives quite a bit more. And there's a lot.
Yeah, and we're going to put it up here, the epsg.ca. If anyone wants to reach out to you directly, we've also put your email up here on the screen. And I know we're doing this live right now on a hot Friday afternoon, but this will play again, so people will, if they didn't catch that, they can rewind and check out all that information. Just before we close, Stephen Patrick Seaborn says bravo he's the co-chair of the ILGA Canada. So he says bravo for your hard work. David's here listening and watching. Thank you so much, Michael. I can now check it off. I didn't know it was on my bucket list, but and there it is right now. And your work is amazing. We're better for the fact that you exist in this world, Michael Fair. If there were more of you, the world would look a lot different. But for now, we'll take you. Thank you very much. I think his internet is getting a little bit choppy, so I just cut that right off. Thank you very much. If you're just tuning in, this is Rainbow Table. Today we're talking about community networks and initiatives, and then we're going to be joined a little bit later on with Misconception, and then she'll be doing a song for us. So thank you very much to Michael Fair. I don't see why anybody would say no to that person. Like, what a lovely human being, and so amazing. Their work is inspiring. So next up we have the lovely and talented George Hartsgrove joining us from Ottawa, the Ottawa Seniors Group. It was started to be organized in 1986. He was part of the first Gay Parade celebration organized by Gays of Ottawa, and he's joining us today from the nation's capital. George Hartsgrove, hello.
Well, hello there, Deb. How are you?
Hello, how are you today?
Doing great, thank you. It was so nice to see Michael Fair. I've known Michael for many, many years. He used to stay at my bed and breakfast when I was running one here in Ottawa. So we've known each other for many years. Yes, and yeah, it's a small world.
That's incredible. So do you have the bed and breakfast anymore?
No, no, I got out of that a number of years ago and thought I was going to retire. Well, I wasn't doing good at retirement, so I ended up as a mortgage broker as my retirement job, and I just finished doing that a couple of years ago.
As you do. I mean, from bed and breakfast
I
owner
know.
to mortgage broker, that is the natural evolution of retirement for sure. Before we go on about your accomplishments, what was your signature dish at your bed and breakfast? What was your signature breakfast?
Oh, well, one of the things that we did that people really liked was baked eggs. So that was one of the highlights. I mean, we did eggs
Okay.
Benedict too, but everybody does that. But I think the baked eggs were something that was a little bit different and people liked.
I love a good bed and breakfast. Michelle is joining us from Toronto, saying hi there and welcome. So in Ottawa, the seniors, I have a lot of information on you. So if there was a test, I would pass it, but I'm just going to have a conversation with you right now. So
Good.
tell me what's happening within Ottawa politically, community-wise, because of course we are talking about community networks and initiatives. What's going on with the Ottawa Senior Pride Network these days?
Well, it's rather interesting listening to Michael, because a lot of the stuff that's happened here in Ottawa is very, very similar to what was happening in Edmonton. We started a few years earlier. We started in 2008. And the way we started was we got a bunch of people together from the community. There was about 70 of us. We got some funding to do this big, huge round table type of thing. And, you know, we had a facilitator and we put little stickies up and said, who's interested in this? And what are your interests? So out of that, we basically had some groups that decided, I'm interested in social activities. I'm interested in end of life issues. I'm interested in this, that, and the other. And from that, what we did is we formed a number of committees. And the committees actually do all of the work. Now, we have absolutely no funding. We've operated since 2008, 12 years now. And we've got a few grants here and there to do specific projects, like, for example, developing training materials and things like that. Just like Michael was talking about, that's very important. And I had a connection, and we hooked up with Ipsos Reid a couple of years ago. And we also did a housing survey here. So we got about $20,000 worth of housing survey, and they did all the analysis and helped us write the report and all that sort of thing. Again, they did it for free because I had some connections there. So we've done a huge amount of stuff, and essentially with no funding.
And
but we have worked
so
in connection with two groups here, the Centertown Community Health Center and the Good Companion Senior Center. So we've worked in conjunction with them to do a number of things.
And I checked out your website, and it seems to me that you're a fan, the group members are fans of literation. So you've got Monday movie night, you've got Feel Good Fridays, you've got these amazing events. I want to talk to you about the Swirl and Twirl. Tell me you came up with that name.
No, actually, Swirl and Twirl, we don't put that on.
Okay.
There's a group that does put that on, but
okay.
We've sort of been involved with it, and actually a number of Senior Pride Network people, I think there's about 4 of them, are on that committee that do put Swirl and Twirl on.
Right.
And it's a huge, big event. Hundreds and hundreds of people come out to it. It's a fundraiser, and every year they pick different charities or groups. We were one of the groups that got sponsored a couple of years ago. And it's basically a wine and beer and food event, and it's hundreds of people show up for this thing.
So why do you think it's important for Senior Pride Network to exist? Because I know in doing this series, we're a few episodes in now, and there seems to be this invisibility once there's a certain age achieved in our queer community, where people just, of course, you don't disappear. But there is this sort of misnomer that people are, where do seniors go? So tell me about the advocacy and the people that are watching that aren't necessarily in the senior demographic, what we need to know about that part of our community, except for just doing this because of all the hard work that's been done.
Well, that's a very good question. I think Michael talked about that a little bit too. Where are the people that were there at the beginning? And we were the ones, in fact, I worked with EGAL during the marriage issue, and we helped get that happening here in Canada. So we've done a lot of those things to make changes. But for a lot of the younger people, they just assume that this has all been there, and we did a lot of work to make sure that things are a lot better. However,
right,
as Michael was saying, when we get to that point where we need to go into a senior's residence or need assistance living in our own homes, then all of a sudden it's right back at square one. We have to do re-education, have to tell people that yes, we are here, we are in your seniors' residences, and we do have our homes and we need people to come in. There's so many stories about, there's one I'll just relate, I'll do it quickly.
Don't go quickly. Listen, George, you've earned this. You have earned this time. Go ahead, tell your story, please.
So it's one of the examples that our training committee uses. Whereas there was this two women, one of them needed some assistance physically in their home. The other didn't have the capabilities to physically help her get into, do the bath and all that sort of thing. And they had a home care worker come in, and all was fine. Everything was going great. And then one day, they saw, and it had been going on for a while. And one day, the home care worker sort of looks at the picture on the sideboard, and there's the two girls. They were off on vacation someplace, and she sort of just assumed that like they were sisters or something. And the light went on, and all of a sudden, on go the gloves, the bath. All of a sudden, it becomes a quick rub, and that's it. We don't need to have abuse in our own homes from the people we are paying to care for us.
Terrible.
So these are the types of things that we try and fight, and we're still fighting.
And it's interesting. There are so many organizations that are doing sensitivity training and awareness, which is important. It's tough. It's tough for me to wrap my head around that because of my level of respect across the board. But it is really important to do that, and you don't want to spend your life fighting, or in some cases, coming out later in life, finally feeling comfortable with yourself to actually acknowledge that part of your world, and then for the smallest or largest trigger to be sucked right back into this closet again. People have worked way too hard for way too long to have to do that. That's a sickening and terrible story, and I hate that experience happened to them. And I'm sure you could name significantly more stories like that.
Oh yes, there's lots of stories like that. But they're not all bad stories, though.
Of course.
We do have one person who is in a facility, a long-term care facility, and not this year, but the year before, because we can do very much Pride stuff this year. But came Pride time in Ottawa, which is for us the end of August. And that care home put out the rainbow flags and had a little Pride event just because they knew he was gay and his partner used to come and visit and all that. So it's not all bad. There are examples where an organization or a senior's home will be respectful and will be welcome.
And that's really from the management down, isn't it? Because you might have a millennial or somebody younger that comes in. And listen, a lot of people have queer aunts and uncles, but then it really comes back to the management and what they feel comfortable with. I have a comment here from Marcia saying, I'm asked about my husband in my rural village, and I've been out since 1979, she says.
Yeah.
Why do people force that heteronormativity on our community? I guess people do what they know, maybe? I'm not trying to make excuses. Yeah. All right. So on a lighter note, the Ontario Senior Pride Network, it is a hot July moment. What's happening virtually for you guys this summer?
Well, we have had to make the major shift just like everybody else. Normally, last few weeks or so, we would have been competing in the annual Dragon Boat race. You put up the graphic of that a little bit earlier. That's one of the things that Ottawa Senior Pride, there we are. That's one of the things that Ottawa Senior Pride Network really prides ourselves on. You'll see not everybody there is a senior. We are quite intergenerational for our Dragon Boat team. But one of the things we really pride ourselves on and was really important right from the beginning was the social aspects of Senior Pride. So one of the things that we've done for many, many years now, and this is our source of income, is we have the Vintage Queers Dance 3 times a year. And we do this at the Good Companion Senior Center because they're a big ally of ours. And for these dances, we have 150 plus people to those dances, and they're packed on the dance floor all the time. So those are one of the things that we do, and we do other social events. And as you have seen from our website now, we've had to switch gears, and so now we're doing yoga online, we're doing meditation online, we have a coffee club. Speaking of people coming out later in life, we had one gentleman join us for the last 2 coffee clubs in his 70s and is just coming out. Our coffee club virtually was his first gay event.
That's incredible.
Isn't that amazing?
That's great. And because you exist, he had a safe place to land, and that's incredible.
And that's exactly what he said. He had a place to land. It was safe, where he could talk and just be himself.
That's phenomenal.
And we do a lot of other things too. We have communications committee, so that keeps our website going and all that sort of thing. And then we have a couple of new committees, the long-term care committee. So we knew how important it was to address the issue of long-term care. I'm chair of the housing committee, and like Michael, we did that survey and all that stuff. Interesting difference though in Ottawa. In our survey, we found only 12% wanted a specifically LGBT living environment for senior residents. They wanted to be in an environment where they would be accepted, but they wanted to have multi-generational, they wanted to be downtown, they wanted to be next to their doctors and the grocery store and all that sort of thing. So they didn't want a specifically LGBT environment so that was rather interesting. So we decided we're not going to build a building because in our survey we found that Mary wanted this, Fred wanted that, and Mike wanted something else. And there was not a hope in hell that we could put all of that stuff please everybody in one building.
Right.
So what we've done is we've created alliances with others so that they are well educated and welcoming, but that way Mary can go where she feels best for her. It meets her lifestyle and meets her needs. So we've done it that way. It's a little bit different, but I think in the long run that will make everyone happier in an
Right,
environment.
which is difficult with any Pride network or group,
Yes, it is.
regardless of age, and that is why I'll never sit on those boards because I get so frustrated. All right, so we're gonna close. Yeah, we're gonna close this off by talking about your virtual dance party on July 10th. Let's talk about how you've gone online for that, so that people can still celebrate working up to Ottawa Pride.
Yeah, well, that's it's going to be our first time doing something like that. So we've hired a DJ, and the DJ is going to play. We always play music from the 50s, 60s, up to the 80s and 90s. You know, all the gay anthems, YMCA, and all that sort of thing. So it's real danceable music. And what we're going to do this time is play the music and do it in a large Zoom environment. So people can watch other people dancing and they can be dancing away and people can see them. So we're hopeful that it's going to be a success, but it will be our first time doing it.
Well, I wish you luck with that. And if you see somebody across a crowded living room / Zoom screen, on Zoom, you can actually send messages. So if there's single seniors out there or people that are wanting to kind of pair up, or maybe people they haven't seen in a long time, those Zoom chats actually allow that. Yeah, you can still pick someone up at a virtual dance if you want.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm grateful for your time today. Thank you so much, George. And I just want to say thank you for all of your hard work on behalf of the queer community. It's not going unnoticed, and because of Rainbow Table, we can highlight your hard work and talk about what you're doing in Ottawa. So thank you, and don't forget, there's always a seat for you at this Rainbow Table.
Thanks very much, Deb. Very much appreciated.
Thanks, George. All right. Well, we're learning a lot today, aren't we? Yeah? Are you just tuning in? My name's Deb Pierce. I'm your host of Rainbow Table every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So today we're talking about community networks and initiatives. We have some real powerhouses on the show today. We have 2 more guests and then a very special surprise performance and quick interview with Misconception. So our third course, if you will, because those were our first and second courses, our third course is Laura Budd. Now, Laura is an impassioned human rights advocate and ally who's driven to create a society where all people are celebrated and respected. And they're coming to us today from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Let's welcome Laura.
Hi there. How's everybody doing?
How are you?
Doing great. Yeah. Actually, I'm from Treaty 4 territory near the settlement, live in the settlement of Yorkton, Saskatchewan. So I work for Moose Jaw Pride.
Sorry, thank you.
Yorkton. So, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes,
No.
Thank you for that clarification. And because of the Yorkton and the Moose Jaw, like the different prides, I know you're an advocate for creating smaller, rural identity and visibility for prides. So how did you get involved with doing that within Pride Networks?
I'm an accidental activist that ended up getting sucked into the life of that I couldn't have, and met with folks as I was trying to create space for myself. Ran into other folks that were doing the same thing or having the same struggles, and just got drawn into it. Joe Wickenhauser, who's now the current executive director of Pride Yukon, was one of those activists back in the early 2000s that was going around the province as a young out gay man trying to get space for folks, and latched onto his enthusiasm, I guess, and the fact that he would just spend time. And I thought, as an older queer person trying to find space for myself in rural Saskatchewan, somebody from a larger community, meaning Moose Jaw at 50,000 people, actually giving me the time of day was quite enlightening, and just ended up we were like-minded in what we wanted for our province, our country, and for our folks, and ended up, we just kept crossing paths to the point that we ended up working together.
There are no such thing as coincidences, Laura. I do not
No.
believe in coincidences for sure. So what I'm hearing is it didn't exist, so you created it. Is that what I'm to assume here? Which is it's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, what happened was there wasn't space, there wasn't legislation to protect folks here in Saskatchewan. We were lagging behind a lot of the other provinces over the last, we kind of move herky-jerky as a society, right? And Ontario, British Columbia had started creating space for trans folks, and Saskatchewan hadn't. And so I latched onto the group that was Time for Rights in the early 2000s. There was trans folks and allies trying to create space and trying to get legislation under our Human Rights Code. And I jumped on board, right? I said, like, we need this, and just worked with the group with their, petitions, marching on the legislature, and eventually working with legislators to try and get space, and learned of my white privilege through the process, in that all of a sudden, powerful white men were willing to listen to me because I was a white woman, and that they could relate to my lived experience, and they could relate to the fact that I was a family person, and that my wife and I had 2 children, and all of these things that they could relate to. And I used that to my advantage to get their ear. And then, a few months after meeting with the then Justice Minister, we had legislation that moved quickly through our legislature. In about 3 hours and 15 minutes, we went from first, second reading, committee, third reading, and then enactment into legislation, because of that advocacy of hundreds of people, and actually getting through to them how important that would be. And then I used that very same legislation and filed a human rights complaint, because I'd been fighting for years to get my name and gender marker corrected without proof of surgery. And that just wasn't happening here in Saskatchewan. They wouldn't hear anything of it. They wanted to inspect us like cattle carcasses on a rack and say, you are or are not masculine or feminine enough to have an M or an F, or remove that M and F from your birth certificate and provincially issued identification. So I sued the government. And I won. I'm a nasty little woman that just would not give up until the Human Rights Commission actually filed a court document, and we went to court. And in that court proceedings, not only did I ask for access to it, I asked for others to have access to it as well. We won that. And I put a caveat on it that I would not accept any ruling without damage to dignity, and said that they owe me damage to the dignity of telling me that I am not woman enough to be female. And the judge agreed. So through that judgment, of course, the government didn't want to create a precedent where they would pay an individual, a living human, this money. So
because if we do it to her, we're going to have to do it to everybody, I think is the common excuse, right? Yeah.
Everybody's going to want money, right? So what they did is they said that they would donate money in my name to an organization that would do advocacy work. And I said, great. I said, but which one? So I sent out emails and letters to everyone or every group in the province that I knew was doing good work, like Out Saskatoon, Trans Saskatchewan, Moose Jaw Pride, all of these organizations. I sent letters out. And the then executive director, Joe Wickenhauser again, gets this email. An hour later, I get a phone call. What do you want to see done with this money? Not what will I do with this money? What would you like to see done with this money? And I said, well, nobody's doing anything in rural Saskatchewan. Everybody's doing things in urban centers. We've got gay clubs like Q Nightclub in Regina and Divas in Saskatoon. We've got
Right.
Out Saskatoon that's doing work for the queer community in Saskatoon and surrounding area, but nobody's doing it in small town Saskatchewan. Nobody's doing it in the small urban centers. And through conversations and consultations in the next 2 months, just before the money was released, we came up with this concept of the Saskatchewan Pride Network that would be overseen by Moose Jaw Pride, but they would go out and do education, advocacy, put on events, create space for folks in rural Saskatchewan and small urban Saskatchewan. And 6 weeks after the development of the Saskatchewan Pride Network, Joe secured some funding through Community Initiatives Fund here in Saskatchewan, CIF. And on July 6th, came knocking on my door and said, "Hey, Laura, I'm looking for an education coordinator. I have a wonderful opportunity, but it's going to be a whole lot of work and a whole lot of travel around the province. What are you doing for the next few years?"
And you said?
And I said, "Oh, I haven't."
Did you say come in first, or did you actually just keep him at the door?
I was just, I guess, shocked. I envisioned all of this work. I believed in it, but I never thought it was going to be mine to do. I have an education in agriculture, lived on a farm all of my life, ran a farm for 30 years, and had got constructively dismissed just a year earlier from my job as an agronomist and a crop supplies assistant, and hadn't worked for over a year. Couldn't find work in my field. I got blacklisted by from my employer, and had gone a year without working, and honestly just was in the process of filing a human rights complaint against them for the way that I was treated and gaslighted. And I said, "Gee, I hadn't really," and then I said, "No, my soul needs to do something, and I need to help my community to help myself heal." And so, yeah, so I said yes. So in a matter of about 3 hours, I went from, "I don't know if I can do this," to, "Yeah, I'm on board." So yeah, that's
amazing.
the last 4 years.
That's phenomenal. So here we are in the summer of 2020, and there's Moose Jaw Pride, there's Yorkton Pride. Is this all in your spare time? Like, you seem like a very busy.
Actually, for the last 4 years, it's been a 3/4 time job, so 30 hours a week. I haven't. So I'm one of those weird and wonderful queer people that just said, my time has value. This work is hard lifting, and for that there has to be some compensation. Not just the kudos from the communities and the folks that we help. We actually have to start making positions and creating space for folks to have jobs, doing this heavy lifting, so that society gets the education that they need, so that queer folks get the space that they need, and we create a life for folks that are doing this work, not just off the side of their desks, not just in the evenings or after work or after they've retired from work. No, we're doing this, and like now I look at it, and we've got some, I believe it's 11 people in Saskatchewan that work for queer organizations doing some form of this work. So in Out Saskatoon, UR Pride, Moose Jaw Pride, we actually have paid employees creating space for folks, helping folks connect with healthcare. We have a trans healthcare coalition that's advocating and working with government to create space within our healthcare system. We have like all of these things that we do, and we do so much more, and we still do all of the volunteering over and above that, right? Like I'm on the panel, a women's panel for Pan-Canadian Voice for Women's Housing and things like this that we do as volunteers, but we actually have paid positions where the jobs that we do are creating space for queer folk.
You're a dynamo. I've got to say, I'm not glad that you lost that job, and I hate how it probably went down. And I suspect that I've been in the same boat in several occasions for job loss. But I'm kind of glad that happened, only because of the advocacy and the hard work and the community networks that you've done and the laws that you've helped to change. This is why Rainbow Table is so important. Right. You're sitting here in your home today on a Friday afternoon. Honestly, I feel like I'm pretty well read in advocacy, and I hadn't met you before. So Laura, but thank you for your time today. I don't know what's next for you. Before we wrap this up, I don't know who's going to knock on your door next. It might be me saying I'm moving to Saskatchewan. But what's in store for you that you can predict anyway?
I don't know. For the last 3 months, just because of funding and things, I've been on layoff, as many of us folks in Canada are. I'm starting to look at more education. I'm starting to look at maybe because of the people that I've been working with and the needs that they have. I know I need more psychology information. I've been doing it just off the side of my desk, trying to get information for myself. I'm thinking a psychology and counseling diploma certificate is in my future, just to round myself out and to give myself the skills I need to help the folks that I'm working with already. So
I think you're already doing a great job, but if you need to put that feather in your cap, then you go for it. Laura Budd, thank you so much for joining me at Rainbow Table today. And thanks to Agal for getting this information to me so I could speak to you and meet with you today. And I wish you all the best. Have a great summer and stay safe.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. Wow, feeling certainly underaccomplished with all of these people today. My goodness, this is what Rainbow Table brings. Thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, please do so. I have a number in mind of how many members I want to become part of this group. And Stephen says he's going to be knocking on my door. Judy says, Laura, you are inspiring. And Judy also says, yes, I love nasty women who don't back down. Me too. All right, we're going to our fourth course before we get to our dessert, which is Misconception. We're going to find out where in the world Misconception is a drag queen and a performer. We're going to find out where she is, and she's going to close us off with a big gay song. Sound good? All right. So our fourth course is Julien Brugerie, and he is from Montreal and part of Fondation Emergence. And I was able to actually catch up with them yesterday. Let's take a look at that interview. Hey, and thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. So you are in the beautiful city of Montreal, yes?
That's right.
And what is it like there today?
It's hot and slightly stormy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, best we were inside having a little chat then. So I just introduced you and all the work that you're doing with your organization. You've been there since April of 2017. Yes. What made you choose to get to paired up with this organization?
I was really appalled by the fact that the LGBT elders are mostly invisible, including within the LGBTQ+ communities. So I was a little bit surprised by that. And when I heard about Fondation Emergence work, what they do in senior homes and for professionals offering services to seniors, they were putting on paper that most of the people are going back in the closet.
Yeah.
And I just found that unacceptable because my generation, we benefit from rights thanks to the fight of these people of previous generations. And we just, not only we forget about them a little bit within the communities, and we let them go back in the closet in retirement homes. So
and you found that completely unacceptable, and I love that.
Yes.
I love that. And it's really important because, we're sitting here with Agal, we're sitting here with Rainbow Table, we're doing this great work because people have paved that way, right? Our pioneers. Exactly. I have gone to many a placard holding demonstration myself to make change in my time. So good for you. That's really important. And it is true, we've talked about this because Rainbow Table, we do talk about seniors a lot. And I get worried for myself, and I think about going into a situation, an assisted living home, and having to be closeted or heteronormatively placed and having to, slow dance with Bob is what I keep saying. Like, nothing wrong with Bob, but not really gonna, doesn't really float my boat. So let's talk about aging gayfully because it's been around for 10 years now. And what is it with the amazing work that you guys tell us, brag about what you do there?
So the program mostly focuses on helping senior settings and anyone offering services to seniors. So that's a lot of people. Make sure they are inclusive of the LGBTQ+ communities, because most of the time when people are getting older, like people tend to consider that they cannot be LGBT. And since they're invisible, it's kind of a vicious circle. Like they don't feel comfortable expressing it because nobody talks about it ever, and people expect them to be straight or cis all the time. So we decided to raise awareness about that. So the way we do it is by offering training sessions for professionals, for services, environments for seniors, and also for seniors themselves. And we also have communication materials, so like posters, stickers, studies review, information guides, everything that they need to learn and create a more welcoming atmosphere.
You give away those materials for free, and you in turn will subsequently potentially ask for donations. So we'll put the website up here, because I did notice that that's incredible that you offer those resources for free, because when you're on the internet, certainly you're physically based out of Montreal, but when you're on the internet, we can be ordering these things all over Canada, I suspect.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't just happen. So you are officially you're called let me just look at it, the program manager for Aging Gayfully and Chosen Family for LGBT caregivers. You also have a work group and advisory council. So how many people comprise that? There's a few decision makers, I suspect, probably within the senior demographic helping to do that.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. So this is related to the Aging Gayfully program. The Chosen Family program works a little bit differently.
Okay.
But for the Aging Gayfully program, we have an advisory group. So they represent seniors settings like the housing sector, the
Right.
Healthcare sector. And the other group that we have is made of LGBT seniors themselves. So it's both 8 to 10%. And for the seniors, there are 8. They are LGBT or T, where we have diversity in that group, and they help us have a direction, because like we plead for their cause, but I'm not senior myself, so it's good to have their opinion, their critiques. It's always very constructive. And they give us a direction too. So when we are to advise government officials, for example, we can consult with them directly.
And what is that communication with the government like? Are you making strides? Have you helped, are you advocating actively within these environments for visibility, for laws being changed? What does that action look like for you guys?
So, I mean, the program is 11 years old. It's going to be 11 years old this year. So for the last years, we have been lucky to have funds from the Quebec government.
Great.
So they help us offer our services, and we also participate to some of their policy change to represent LGBTQ+ seniors. And we advise them on how their policy should be. Excellent.
And so what are some of the roadblocks before we wrap it up today, because it's really important that we don't become invisible after particularly this demographic making such great strides for our human rights in Canada specifically. So what are some of the things that you want people to know right now? Because there's a reason why, I don't know what it is, but there's a reason why as a community, we're a little bit ageist, a little bit, sort of ableist, we're bodyist, all the ists, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you want the community to be more sensitive around? What do you want us to be more aware of? I'm not particularly in that dynamic, that group yet myself. So what is it that you want us to know about, and maybe some things we can do in our own communities?
So, I mean, there's a lot of things to be said to explain, why it's so tricky for them to express that they're LGBT. But something that is the least known is often that they really suffer from systemic discrimination. I mentioned a vicious circle before. Because they are older, the society tends to see them as old people only, not like a human being. And it doesn't leave any room for diversity. So it's the the bigger problem we have is that they're invisible. So people offering services to them, they don't see the problem. And when we reach out to them and say, hey, you should be more inclusive, you should do some things about that, the first reaction, and that's the case of a lot of people, it's, oh, seniors are the problem, you know, they are the ones who are being homophobic, and they totally reject that there's something that they can do about it. Right. And the main focus of our program focuses on them, like they can do something about it. They are maintaining a taboo without realizing it, and because of this taboo, they push people back in the closet without even realizing. So maybe that's the most important point, because that's you know, it's easy to explain that they're isolated, that their way of life was really complicated, it was illegal, it was a mental disease, like they experience all of that. That is pretty well known. But the biggest difficulty we have is to make people working there realize that there's something to be done and they can do something. Because they're older, they are seen as more homophobic than average or more transphobic than average, and that's not my observation. I interact a lot with all the people, and in my experience, they're not any more homophobic or transphobic than the average. So it's very systemic.
And there is that internalized homophobia. Once something's been said about you for so long, you start to believe like, oh, maybe I shouldn't come out. And when you think about growing up and having formative years in the 50s, 60s, 70s, I mean, there was electric shock therapy for this stuff. Like that's those are the things and that people have to unlearn. Sentence.
Yeah.
And prison sentence, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah, it's interesting because when you see a senior, like my mom is 83. So I talk to her respectfully because she's lived a full life. She's not always been 83, right? So I think about her being my age, being younger than that. Of course, they've lived this life. Seniors aren't just hatched, you know, they become that over time with life experience. And just to be sensitive to that, it's like me talking to an 8-year-old. Like, you don't want to talk to them like a child. You do age-specific things, but you have to understand that they're, you know, a cognizant human as well. So it's really important.
The longer you are in the closet, the harder it is to get out too. You know, it becomes your defense mechanism. So.
Right. Yeah.
And to get out of the closet when you retire is much harder than getting out of the closet when you're a teenager, for example.
Right. Or maybe you were married to somebody that you weren't necessarily in love with.
Most of them were, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've all had neighbors like that, and you're all like, Joanne looks like she may be a friend of Dorothy. And just with that particular demographic, it was not safe. You know, it was maybe not the choice, but it was like, I had to get married. I had to have a baby. I had to be married to, you know, a man. It's sad and it's changing, but it's so important what you're doing. I honor your work so much, Julienne. Thank you so much. If you're just joining us right now, this is Julienne. Am I pronouncing your first name right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, from Fondation Emergence.
Yeah.
Yeah, what he said. Thank you very much for joining us today. Keep up the great work. Keep in touch with us. For those viewers who are out there, please go check out their website. The stuff that you guys are giving away is great. Keep up the great work, and hopefully one day we might not even have to talk about this stuff because we'll just all see each other.
I hope so. I hope so. It's going to be a few years of work though, but it's going to get better and better. And everything we do, the training sessions and the material is available in English or French, so people can reach out to us from everywhere in Canada.
Thanks, Julienne. Thank you for your hard work. Keep it up, and thanks for joining us today on Rainbow Table. And that was Julienne joining me yesterday. Thank you very much again. And Julienne, if you're watching the show now being aired live, David says, thanks for your work in Montreal. And Stephen Patrick Seaborn says, bravo, Julienne, bon travail, which means good work. So thank you very much. All right, we have had some great guests today talking about community networks and initiatives. And now for the dessert of the Rainbow Table. If you've been with us the whole show, thank you very much. If you're just joining in right now, thank you very much for being here. The person you're going to see on screen next is Miss Conception. Miss Conception is a drag performer, an international drag performer, And that's her right there, looking quite beautiful and stunning in all her glory. I have to be honest, as a personal friend of mine, she is an absolute delight on and off stage, in and out of drag, and has decided in these times of COVID and the pandemic to take on an interesting new initiative of her own. So I've been teasing this the entire show because I don't know where she is, because she's traveling around the province in an RV. Let's find out where Miss Conception is right now. Look at you in front of your RV. That's so butch. I love it. It's so funny we both said that. Oh my God, Miss Conception, thank you for being on Rainbow Table today. I know you're busy and you're probably a few hours away from getting into face for your next show. So let's talk about how long, for those people that don't know you, how long you've been doing drag, and why how you chose to pivot into traveling around in an RV, bringing shows to people. How long have you been doing this?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've been doing drag for it's my 20th anniversary this year, actually.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I started back in the old Zippers days on the one in Hamilton. And I started doing drag just for fun 20 years ago, and won so many titles and worked at Zelda's restaurant. And, you and I did so many fundraisers together. I worked at Proud FM with you at one point, and we worked at, you came to Provincetown to see my show. And it's just been quite a journey. And with COVID, obviously, as well as I know that entertainment and the world stopped. So I thought to myself, for the last 3 months, what am I gonna do? What are we all gonna do in this situation? Because I've been doing online shows as well, and so I just thought, we had this RV just kicking around, and
did you really have an RV kicking around?
We did. My sister's boyfriend totally had an RV, and he was.
I'm so jealous. I want one so bad. I can't even.
It was hilarious, and I was just like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah," and I go, "Well, we should do something." So we kind of thought of the name Dragging Across Canada. We're starting off with the Ontario tour, and what I'm going to hopefully do is next summer possibly go all across Canada. And I thought I would do socially distancing shows. And there's our drive-in coming up, which is happening on July 10th and 11th. And that just popped up out of nowhere, where I just thought of this idea of actually doing a show at the drive-in. I saw that they were doing it in Las Vegas. My friend Edie in Las Vegas. I saw that in Germany they were doing these drive-in concerts, and all of a sudden I phoned Splash Events Inc. and I said to my friend Jamie Crouch, and I said, "What about Miss Conception at the drive-in?" And he says, "What?" And boom, the idea bursted, and all the socially distancing shows. So I'm just doing backyards right now. So we're going on the tour starting tonight. So I'll pop in your backyard. I have my own sound system. All you have to do is plug me in with my 200-foot extension cord, and I'll perform a 45-minute set live for you with costume changes. I'm doing a 9-year-old's birthday party tonight. No word of a lie.
You are creating a memory for this 9-year-old, also arguably going to be the coolest kid on that street.
Right? It's so true. But yeah, so the drive-in thing has just become so huge, and tickets are on sale at www.driveindragshowcanada.ca.
Okay, I really wanted to do that because people are watching this from coast to coast to coast here, and we could have some Rainbow Table viewers wanting to get in on this action. I'm so tempted to ask you to open that door to see your tickle trunk, but I don't know who's in there or if someone's resting.
I don't have any tickle trunk in here just yet. It's all still inside, but this is our RV. It's very fabulous, and we've got it all. We're starting to stock the cupboards, and and I've got my sound system over here. It's all ready to go, all kind of plugged. We got a guitar, because those moments when you're kind of around a campfire. We're gonna be camping. We are gonna be sleeping in some Walmart parking lots. Hey!
Oh my God! My colleague Wes mentioned Walmart, you, and the RV all in the same sentence today. That's so funny that you'd say that.
That is funny.
That's wild. And so, okay, so you're very close with your family. Like your parents are your best friends. You are the first person to admit and say that. And what a blessed situation that is, that you're probably all traveling together. Your sister's there. You like each other now on this July 3rd. I'm going to check in with you in a month and find out how everything's going. You're going to be strapped to the roof on the way down the highway.
It's so true. It's so true. I'm sorry, I was getting a little bit of feedback there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I was getting it too. No, you're fine now. I think it's all the metal that you're standing next to.
Maybe it's the metal. I mean, I'm stepping away from it. It's actually going away.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with my sister and stuff like that. But I'm sure we're gonna have a hoot and we're gonna have so much fun and just go to all these different little towns and stuff like that. But the main one that we're doing is the Midland Drive-In Show. So if you know anyone, tell them to buy tickets. It's going to be amazing with myself, the wonderful Ladyface, and Sofanda as well. And it's going to be. People think it's actually going to be a virtual show on the drive-in. No, we actually have a fabulous live stage. Chorus Entertainment has graciously come involved with this event, as well as Splash Events Inc. and Dragging Across Canada, and so many more amazing people involved. So it's going to be a live concert in the drive-in, and it's going to be projected on the screen. We also have food trucks going to be pulling in there. We have porta potties, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. Everything's going to be to socially distancing, and also all sanitary stations and stuff. We have a whole crew, about 40 volunteers on board, making sure that the porta potties are all washed afterwards, and just making sure everything that the Midland Muskoka Health will be all happy with us.
I just can't. I was going back 4 minutes ago and saying, and the big show is at the Midland Drive-In. Like, honest to God, there are a few sentences that I never thought that I'd hear, and maybe that's one of them. Okay, so if you're just joining us, this is Misconception before she gets into her face and I break a leg tonight on your show. We do have a little video that we're going to regale people with now of you performing in front of some glittery things. Misconception, thank you very much for joining us today. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend, my longtime friend and cohort in drag. If you want to book Misconception, you can find her all over the Facebook. So you can just book her through that. Don't worry about writing anything down right now. You can book her for a private party like that smart 9-year-old's family. But right now, Kevin, thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to show a video of you right now. Be well, my friend.
I love you, baby. Nice to see you. I love you.
I love you too. Let's go see Misconception.
From the bottom of my heart, I want to say if you're struggling with anything or if you need someone to talk to, I'm Misconception on Facebook. You can always send me a message and I will always reply and chat with you and make you smile and make you giggle, because that's what it is all about. So I'm going to close this virtual Pride with you this evening with a song that was from a musical, a musical with Misconception, right? It was a wonderful song, and I did this many years ago, and it's a pride anthem. It really, truly is a pride anthem, and I am who I am, my darlings, and always remember that, and you are who you are, and we are who we are. So let me take you to a fabulous song to close off our wonderful set from La Cage aux Folles, ladies and gentlemen. I am what I am. I am what I am. I am my own special creation. So come, take a look. Give me the hook or the ovation. It's my world that I want to have a little pride in. It's our world, and it's not a place we have to hide in. not worth a damn. Till you can shout out loud, I am what I am. I am what I am, and what I am needs no excuses. I bang my own drum, something it's noise, I think it's pretty. And so what if I love each sparkle and each spangle? Why not try to see things from a different angle? Your life is a sham, till you can shout out loud, I am what I am. I'm a big drag queen, baby, and I love you all. I am what I am, and what I am needs no excuses. I deal my own deck. Sometimes the ace, sometimes the deuces. It's one life, and there's no return and no deposit. One life, so it's time to open up your closet. Life's not worth a damn till you can shout, hey world, I am what I am. Thank you so much. Happy Pride!
Yay! Misconception! Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us here on Rainbow Table today. We're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much. Dennis is like actually singing and not lip syncing. Yes, Dennis, Misconception's an actual singer. That's fantastic. You can check her dragging across Canada. And it is David Richard Lowe. You're right. That is an anthem. That is a big gay anthem. And that's why she chose to send that in today. Thank you so much for joining us. Our shows are getting a little longer, but we're glad that you're sticking around with us and hope that we're informing and entertaining you. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, please join Rainbow Table on Facebook. Thank you very much. Judy's giving us a big clap. Before I close out, I have to say to you, thank you again. And there is always a seat for you here at our Rainbow Table. Take care of yourselves. See you next time.